Welcome, everyone, to the Last Gas Fantasy Sports Podcast, coming to you live from Gibson Truck World Studios here in Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visors, located in Gainesville, Florida, out here at Celebration Point. You know, it's a beautiful morning. It's a beautiful day, Brad. We're back after 2 weeks. My name is TJ White. I'm with my co-host, Brad Carman. Brad, what's going on, man?
It's great. It's great being back here. Like you said, we haven't been live in 2 weeks. I'm so excited to get back to this.
Oh, no, we were talking about it Thursday, and, it was like, man, we were just amped to get back in at the studio. We hope everybody had a blessed Thanksgiving, had some time with your family, recharged your batteries to finish out the year strong. Today I've got my son in studio, so hopefully he doesn't make any noises or too crazy things back there. So I pre-warned you all for that, so just pay attention to there. It's a wild day. We want to say thanks to all of our sponsors: Archer Electric Services Company, Paisano's Stone-Fired Pizza, Door to Door Transport, Gibson Truck World, and Viking Companies. They've done a great job for us all year. Also, Gibson Truck World can be found in Sanford, Florida. I talked to them this week. They're having a great season coming back right now. It's going into the Christmas holidays. Go down there, check them out, check out the trucks. They're just a good group down there, and I've got some family members that work for them, and they really do a good job and provide some of the best service around the area, man.
That's awesome.
Also, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter at Last Gas Fantasy Podcast. We are here every Sunday morning live at 11 a.m., so come check us out. Make sure you click that follow and like button. Add your comments to below on that live video. And send them in. We're going to be answering those live, Brad, and really excited about, just hopefully helping you get into the playoffs or picking up players for the playoffs, man.
Yeah, a lot of people are sitting there, 7th, 8th in their standings, and they need these decisions to make the playoffs. And it's going to be a great last couple weeks.
I'm sitting at the point where in one of my leagues, I'm a spoiler now. I'm out of it. There's I think when I looked this week, I was a 1%, which means that they're just making me feel good. Yeah. They're making me feel like I have an opportunity to win. In the other league, I'm locked. I'm in the final 14 playoff. So the one league, I'm the first one in there picking up waiver wires. And it's something I want to talk about a little bit before we get going here is it wrong to be that guy to go first in the waiver wires and take players away from teams that are in the playoffs? I'm not against it. I want to go in, and if I've got first pick at waiver wire, I'm trying to win every week. So I'm going in and picking up the best players that are available.
Well, I think every team should play through the whole season.
Yeah.
So yes, you go and you play the games. So what if you can't make the playoffs? You're still playing the game.
Yeah. And this is the thing too, is that you're potentially knocking somebody else out of the playoff and helping somebody else get in the playoffs. Yeah. So you might be the bad guy for one and the savior for others. And so always be active on the waiver wire. Pay attention who's out there, see what's going on, and really, really go for it every week you can. I mean, there's only 5 more weeks, and then it's 30 weeks without any football. So, think about that, folks. So if you're enjoying it, if you're getting tired, your team's getting beat, if you're Detroit, this is the time to still enjoy having fantasy, having football, talking NFL, talking like we are.
In one of my leagues, I'm sitting in 8th place. 8 teams make the playoffs in this league. I'm 2 games up. We have 2 games left.
Yeah.
So I'm rooting for that 9, 10, 11, 12 team to play. If they don't play, it could really hurt me.
And that's what's happened, where they leave somebody in a bye, or they leave a guy that's hurt that's in the lineup, and that guy gets an easy win and maybe it steals your spot. And also where you're seated at. You don't want to end up being 8th and playing the number 1 team in the league who's absolutely dominated all year. You want to be, if you're 4 or 5, you want to stay 4 or 5, so you're playing the 3 seed or the 2 seed or whatever that is. So, you think about that, Brad, and it's really a really fun time for fantasy. You've got the few weeks to finish up here in the season, which is really the go-to part of the NFL season, and it's really an interesting part. So we're going to go into some recaps now, Brad, and really take off, man. I'm excited.
Now, before that, I want to say we're sitting here at Spurrier's Grill Restaurant, and brunch just opened up. They're letting people in. It looks fantastic again. There's a line at the door, but come on down, try this food. Come down to Spurrier's Grill.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. The weather today is 61, 2, sunny. In Gainesville, Florida right now, if you wanted to be anything else in the world, I would just laugh at you because it's that gorgeous. We had a big win last weekend against our arch rivals, Florida State, so the atmosphere is positive around here. Everybody's having a good mood. It's holiday season. All the lights are up around here too. There's Christmas trees, there's lights. So come on in, check us out. Everybody around here is just in a good vibe, man. It's just a great time. It's a great time.
I saw some friends walking by. They're sitting down now.
I saw them waving at us right there, saying what's going on. So, we appreciate all the listeners out there on Facebook watching us too. Twitter, YouTube. Man, it's just great, man. It's good, Brad.
But getting into the recap, I'm going to do a little differently this week.
Yeah.
I'd like to look at where we are in the standings, where we are, who's looking to make the teams, how they've been performing over the last few weeks of the season, and where we're standing. So I'm going to start at the NFC East. Dallas comes off of a 2-game losing streak, tightening up their division. Washington is coming off of winning a few in a row now and is right back in this race. Now, Thursday night, Dallas did beat New Orleans to get off that losing streak, to help them out. They're sitting at 8-4 now. Does Washington have a chance to? Well, right now they do have a chance to make the playoffs.
Oh, definitely.
But do they have a chance to win their division?
So, we talked about it a little bit when Corey joined us, and want to say thank you, Corey, for always coming in here and filling in when we can. And it's great to have his opinions and thoughts about fantasy football. We talked a little bit about this, and I made the joke that if you lose once, then it's a fluke. If you lose twice, then you're really in trouble. And Dallas lost one, bounced back, and then lost back-to-back. And I was like, man, they're really in trouble. But they lost to the Chiefs, which was a tough team. I think it was 19-9, a close game. Then they lost into overtime, to the Raiders on Thanksgiving Day, which just kills people because that's the only lock that I thought there was on that day. Bills playing New Orleans late night was a pretty good lock, but they go and leave one on the field there. But that division was so in turmoil. I think they've got the division locked up. I think that they're
2 games ahead of Washington.
Yep.
And they play Washington 2 more times this season.
Yep.
So Washington really holds their cards. If they can do their job, win out their games, they're right there.
No, you're right. And if they do that, Brad, they have the potential to do that. Now, like I said, the Giants could have lost that game, and we talked with him, and they did. They lost to Tampa. I think it was 30-10 2 weeks ago, which was week 11. And they come back and win last week.
Right.
And that was a surprise for people to beat Philly. I think it was at Philly, too. I think it was 13-7 final. And they're sitting 7-4, Brad, or 4-7.
4-7, correct.
And an 8-8 team potentially in this division could make the playoffs.
Yes.
As the wild card. There's the 7 teams now.
Correct.
The first team gets a bye, and then you have the next 6 that are getting in. So it's a wild thing, man. So I believe that this division is wide open, and they play each other, so they hold their own destiny. They're going to be able to have a chance to really do well.
And, is Zeke okay? Zeke's looking like he's hurt. This Thursday night, he hardly rushed. I think he had 41 yards, 13 carries, 45 yards like that.
Yep.
Pollard looked decent. He had 7 for 71 and a touchdown. Do they start leaning on Pollard more?
Well, I saw a stat when I was sitting at the bar watching it, and it was he hasn't rushed over 100 yards since week 6.
Yeah.
We're week 13, Brad. That's bad.
I think he's got an injury that is just not out there.
It's got to be something, and he's been a famine or feast kind of guy. He's always been one of those guys that's going to be, hey, I'm going to get you 10 or 15 points, 20, 30 points a game, or the next week you just go with like a 7.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is going on here, and what is he doing,
Well, he's a hard start right now.
Yeah. And I have him in one of my leagues, and I start him every week, and that's the league I'm not making the playoffs. So, I've got a buddy, my buddy Kenny. He's out of Orlando. He loves Dallas Cowboys. He's got the Cowboys defense. He's got Dak Prescott. He's got Ezekiel Elliott. He's got Amari Cooper, and he's got their kickers at line.
And
so he's doing well this year. He's done well. The defense has done well. Dak's done well. But it's wild that his whole team is Dallas. You might as well call them Dallas Cowboys. But
he's probably sitting around 40 points this week. Most of them came from the kicker.
Well, the Dallas defense had 4 INTs. They had a touchdown.
Yes.
They tore it up. So
Yeah.
when you think about that, that division is going to be fun, man. It's really interesting to see.
Let's move on to the NFC West. Arizona is 9-2, is now 6-game road winning streak. They're 2 games ahead of the Bears. Or they're 2 games in the lead of the Rams, I'm sorry.
Yep.
The Rams lose 3 in a row now and fall to 7-4. San Francisco is 3 games winning streak. They're sitting at 6-5. So
you're right, Brad. That's the thing, is that this part of the year, sometimes you have the teams that are just blowing away divisions and they're really taking it over. Like Arizona. Arizona's lost a couple games. It wouldn't surprise me if they were resting Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah, I know they want the first seed and they want the bye, but right now they're sitting 2 games up, right? I think Tampa's at what, 8-4, right? I think so. And so,
They're 8-3.
8-3. So they're only a game up on the number 1 seed. You want to be the number 1 seed. You want that first week bye. So I'm not saying that they're resting on purpose, but if they can get through some of these easier games on their schedule without having to play Kyler Murray and Hopkins and some of these other players that can get some rest in these long, grueling season, I mean, more power to them.
They got the Bears, then the Rams, Lions, Colts, Cowboys, and Seahawks to finish out their season. So they have some games they could rest them.
Well, and that's I would say the Lions and Seahawks potentially, but that's not an easy schedule. Bears is in there too.
Bears, yeah.
But Rams, Colts, Cowboys, it's not gonna. Those aren't gonna be fun games. And Rams trying to get in the playoffs. Colts are playing well at the AFC right now. They're not an easy team. I mean, my team had trouble with them last week. They had to come back in the fourth quarter, and Fournette carried them to the win. But I mean, that's not a team I want to play right now if I was anybody.
And that Rams game is very important. You got the Bears next. Okay, you got a little bit of a breather there. Then you play the Rams. That could be for the division.
Yeah, I mean you're right. That could be if the Rams start picking it up. They've lost 3 straight. They shouldn't have that. But their schedules, just as I think, if not Jacksonville's. Yeah, like we're going to give that one to them pretty easy.
Yeah.
But you got the Cardinals. That would tie them up a little bit. But you got Seahawks, Vikings, Ravens, San Fran. That San Fran game's the tricky one. They're both out west. They're right there. They're that's a rivalry. So I'm not sure who's coming out of that. And don't count out San Fran. I mean, and that's the thing. They're 3 games out of first, but they're not worried about first. They're worried about getting to the playoffs. And I think they can if they keep playing well.
Well, looking at the remainder of their schedule, they got the Seahawks, which should be a win.
Yep.
Bengals are going to be a fight. Falcons should be a win. Titans, I don't think the Titans are going to be there when it comes to the end of the season. So I think that's a win. Texans is a win, and then Rams for the playoffs.
Well, that's the thing. They've got the Falcons, Titans, Texans, which I think is an easier 3-game stretch than any of the other teams there.
Correct.
And they got the Seahawks prior to that.
Correct.
So they, Seahawks aren't the old Seahawks that we're used to. I mean, they can probably put up a game. They still have Russell Wilson, and they still have a great coach, and they still want to play for pride. But San Fran by far has the easiest schedule out of all the teams left in that division.
Yeah, sitting 3 back, so they got to do it.
Yep.
They got to hope for some help.
Yep.
The Rams beating
Arizona. Beat Arizona, and then they got to beat Arizona. Right.
And then they beat Arizona. They're right there.
Yep.
Let's go on to the NFC North. Green Bay is holding a comfortable 3-game lead. They're sitting at 9-3. Everyone else in the division has a losing record right now. The next team is the Vikings at 5-6.
Yeah, and the Vikings beat Green Bay 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And I was like, man, that's saying something. Like that puts them in a potential 5-5. They're fighting any team that goes whatever it is, 9-8 or 8-8, whatever the season's going to be. I think they're 17 weeks now or 18 weeks, and so they're going to have, someone will have to have a positive record. But I believe that they were in a positive direction to move where they could be, hey, we're going to contend for a playoff spot, and then go and lose last week.
Yeah.
It's like, man, what this team is up and down and up and down and all over the place. And I was going to talk about this in a little bit, but Kirk Cousins is not getting the credit that he's due.
No.
It's unreal.
Kirk's had a great season.
And if you're a fantasy owner and you're playing him, bravo to you, whoever you picked up and decided to do that. He's got 24 TDs. He's got 3 interceptions. He's absolutely dominating the stat line, but yet he's quietly sitting at 5-6. He's not overpowering. He's not doing anything, but he's week in and week out one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the league, and you just got to praise that.
Yeah. I've got Kirk Cousins on the bench because I have Josh Allen as my starting quarterback.
Yeah.
And it's hard to sit a Josh Allen.
Yeah.
But there's times like this week, I'm debating whether to do it or not.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing is how do you not start Cousins? And that's one of the leagues I have 2 leagues. One of the options is the flex. You can have start a second QB, and it's a blessing in disguise, and because you get to, but it's a PPR league, so that's the risk to reward is. Do you start a QB or do you start a wide receiver who gets 10 garbage catches and still scores more than a QB? So it's really fun that way. So I appreciate it.
Well, I see, after Green Bay losing the first game of the season, they've really put it back together,
Yep.
and I see them running away with this division.
Yeah, I don't see them losing. I think the only thing that I see them fighting for is whether or not they'll be first in the NFC. And that's they're like Tampa. They actually got half a game up on Tampa because in the win column they're 9-3. Tampa's 8-3. So they're right there on the heels of the Cardinals for this division. So those 3, I think, are in, and with Dallas are the 4. The last 3 are going to be a coin flip. You can take any of these teams in the middle here. I think the Rams have the best opportunity to get in there, but it's kind of a coin flip there.
Yes. Okay, let's go to the NFC South. We'll talk about Tampa a little bit.
Yeah, baby.
Tampa's also sitting in a 3-game lead. They're 8-3. Everyone else in the division also has a losing record. You got Atlanta and New Orleans sitting at 5-6. New Orleans 5-game losing streak.
Yep, they're and now they just lost Thursday night.
Oh, so it's a 6-game losing streak.
That made it 5. They were at 5-2. We were talking about on the show they were tied with Tampa, that they were making a run and nobody would ever thought that, and then they go and just give it up, And I want to say to a lot of our friends out there that asked me whether or not to start Taysom Hill versus Jalen Hurts, and I asked, well, is Jalen Hurts hurt? And he goes, well, he hurt himself on his ankle, and I was like, well, then does he want to start or not start? Should you start him? And I said, if you have a healthy Jalen Hurts, it's always a start over Taysom Hill. Period. That's a no-brainer in my opinion, especially with where he's been sitting at. He's in the top 10 rankings of quarterbacks this year. He's put up great numbers, and boy, was I wrong.
Well, did Taysom Hill have a good game?
That's the question. Like, did he have a good game? If you're a fantasy owner, yes. You can't argue his numbers in fantasy. And that's a question I'm going to bring up in a little bit to you, Brad, about questions and fantasies and points and systems like that. But for as a fantasy owner, you could care less what it looks like on the field. He could throw 15 interceptions and fumble the ball 12 times. But if he gives you 30 points as a fantasy owner, you're starting him the next week.
Yeah, I mean, he threw the ball 41 times and only completed 19.
Yeah.
He completed 4 to the other team.
Yeah,
had 4 interceptions.
He had 25% of his completed passes went to the other team, Brad.
But he had 11 carries for 101 yards.
I know, and that's hard. And that's hard not to start them in the game when that's going on. And it's just wild.
I will say 2 of his completions were touchdowns.
So he throws for 2 touchdowns and runs for a touchdown, and you wonder why he gets points.
Completion to touchdown ratio is pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. First off, we want to thank our sponsors, Archer Electric Services Company. They're bringing you over 30 years of leadership and experience in both commercial and residential and electric needs to the Gainesville and surrounding communities. We want to say a special thanks to Paisano's Stone-Fired Pizza. Whether you're looking for a quick lunch or a dinner destination to meet up with friends and family, Paisano's is your place. Celebrate life's most memorable moments with delicious dishes, whether in your dining room or ours. Also, a special thanks to Gibson Truck World out of Sanford, Florida. They're great. Go check them out. Spurrier's Gridiron Grill Advisors and We Be Marketing for their continued support. Also, Viking Companies. And Brad, I want to say another thing. One of the first sponsors we had on here was Archer Electric. Archer Electric Services. They were the first one that gave us an opportunity to get this show going, and we really just want to say thanks to them. This has been a blast and a ride. That's just been a really fun time, and go check them out for any of your services needs, whether it's minor or major. Call them out, have them come see what's going on, whether it's changing some fans in a room, moving some things around, electrical boxes, fuses. They do it all, man.
Yes, they do. They're great. They're great at what they do. They were at my house at the beginning of this summer, fixed up all my wiring and everything. I recommend them highly.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, and especially this time going into winter months, make sure you're looking into what, heat's going on. You haven't used it all the time. If you got some things that are smelling weird, and then call them out. Hey, it's better to be safe than sorry. Have a professional look at it. They're professionals. They do the job every week, day in and day out. So go check out Archer Electric Services. They're the best. So, Brad, back to the AFC, man.
Yeah, before we go on AFC, one more person I want to talk about with Tampa, Leonard Fournette.
Yeah,
he's coming along, and they started the season. He wasn't even the starting running back.
Yep.
Now he is really looking good.
Well, he carried them to a win last week.
Yes, he did.
And it was, I would say, carried them as a figure of speech. Of course, as a running back, he's physically carrying them because he's carrying the load of the ball all the time. But 4 TDs on a game that they needed to be physical with the Colts. The Colts are a very, very physical team, and they won 38-31. I think they were down at some point 17 points in the first half, down 14 going into half, had to make some adjustments, make some changes, and to win that gritty game, I would not want to play them, the Colts, but I also not playing Tampa. Tampa's starting to move in a direction that's, hey, they're preparing for postseason and starting to get a little bit of the players healthy back.
I was getting a little bit worried about Tampa because with Antonio Brown out, it didn't look like their game was, their passing game was moving along.
Right.
But when you get Leonard Fournette to step up and play,
yeah,
they're a pretty strong team now.
Well, that's the thing too is if Gronk comes back, if you lose Antonio Brown for 3 weeks and that suspension is just a whole nother conversation.
But he's gone in fantasy now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird on that. But you also have Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
You've got Mike Evans. You've got Gronkowski. You've got Ronald Jones out of the backfield, if you can get Leonard Fournette that's healthy, I mean, it's a plethora of weapons there. And so they're not hurting for having athletes. And of course, you got the GOAT.
Yes.
Anytime you have the GOAT, they're always in a game.
Okay, so let's go on to the AFC East. New England's winning. We got a winning streak of 6 in a row.
Yep.
Takes over the division at 8-4. Buffalo stays pretty close behind them at 7-4. It's a pretty tight division here.
No, it really is. I mean, you have to tip your hat off to Mac Jones.
Yes.
He's a top 10 quarterback stats-wise in fantasy, and I know we're fantasy talk. We like talking it. You know, he's not, on an average week, he's not the guy that's going to get you 30 to 40 points. He's not going to get you those crazy numbers, but he's like 15, 20 a week. And he's not turning it over. He's getting touchdowns, and he's managing the game very well for a rookie quarterback. And if he's not rookie of the year, then I don't know who is going to be. Jamar Chase is in the conversation, but I don't know anybody else.
But, we sit here and talk about how good Josh Allen is, and
Yep.
he's a great fantasy player and everything. But compare Josh Allen to Mac Jones' numbers.
Yep.
I mean, they're both – Allen's got 3,000 yards. Mac Jones has got 2,800. Josh Allen has 10 interceptions. Mac only has 8.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, Josh has got a few more touchdowns, and that's kind of where the points kind of separate themselves.
Yep.
Allen's got 25. Mac Jones has only got 16.
Yeah.
If he can catch up on those touchdowns, they're sitting pretty equivalent in stats.
No, it is wild to think that's where it's at. Josh Allen is doing well. I mean, he's leading. He's the number 1 ranked quarterback right now, and that was kind of expected. But I never expected Mac Jones to be anywhere in a conversation for a fantasy football talk. I mean, there's too many other good quarterbacks: Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. I mean, even Jalen Hurts is a second-year quarterback that's second right now in the rankings of QBs. Maybe not averages, but it's still to see. Joe Burrow is in there, Dak Prescott. I'm saying guys like that. If you're only 12 teams in the league, you only start 12 quarterbacks. Right. So for him to even be in a conversation of fantasy stats is a thing on his own, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Looking at the remaining schedules for both of them, they got to play each other.
Yep.
And right now it's a half-game lead, so it's a very big game coming up.
Don't they play twice, right? Is that what that looks like? They play this week and then in 2 weeks?
Yes, they do. That's
so
right.
So that's the division right there.
Yeah.
Whoever wins those, if it splits it, then it's a whole nother race, and we'll see what's going on. When you think about it, though, New England's got the harder games in my mind. They've got the Bills, Colts, Bills, Jags, Dolphins. The Jags, Dolphins are I think they can win those last 2. But Buffalo's got Patriots, Tampa, but then they got Panthers, Falcons, Jets. Those are 3 easy, pretty games that they should handle. But the 2 Patriots and Tampa mixed in there is not going to be, so that's the division. So both those games really have to, and Buffalo doesn't play well against bad competition.
Yeah.
Look at them playing against the Jags. So, really that's not a big thing there. So we'll see what happens, man.
Well, moving on to AFC West. Now we got the closest division that there is right here. I mean, and I can't believe I'm telling you Kansas City is leading this division because
you couldn't have told me that 3 weeks ago and said, "Oh, Kansas City's doing what?"
They're on a 4-game winning streak. They're sitting at 7-4. Everyone else is sitting at 6-5. I mean, it's coming down to the line. You got the last 5 games of the season, and I've got the matchups right here. It's going to be a crazy last 5 games, 5 or 6 games.
And we're talking about Kansas City, and before we went to break with last week's Thanksgiving holiday, it was the biggest game of the week in my opinion was that Dallas-Kansas City game. And I was like, Dallas is going to win this game easy because I felt their offense was going to be able to score against that Kansas City defense. And the reason this team has turned it around is that defense has gotten a lot better really quickly. And they shut down the Cowboys. They held them to 9 points. And they deserve a lot of credit for turning this team. It's not just Patrick Mahomes and those guys doing their job. That defense has really played well. And it's brought them back in a division that I thought was going to be a runaway for a loss for the Chargers.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, it's a coin flip. 7-4, 6-5, 6-5, 6-5. They're all there. And the Raiders beating the Cowboys last week. It's like every time you think a team's out of this division, they're right back in it for fantasy wise too. You got Josh Jacobs scoring a touchdown. You've got Carr is throwing points all over the field. Deshaun Jackson hits an 85-yard touchdown on the very first play. I mean, not first play of the game, but early in that game. So, fantasy owners, there's guys out there to find and pick up. There's players.
But you look at Kansas City's schedule. Pittsburgh's their easiest game left on the schedule. They've got Denver, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Denver. I mean, this is going to come down to, can you pull it out? Can Patrick Mahomes pull this out? If he does and wins their division, that's awesome. But it also could put him out of the playoffs.
No, yeah. And I think when you look at who's left with each team, the Broncos' easiest game would say is Detroit. That's a win, so that gives them one win. But they're all playing similar teams. The Chargers, I would say, have the easiest when it comes to they've got New York and they've got Houston.
Yeah.
But for the most part, those are really the two schedules. I wouldn't want to be Las Vegas and I wouldn't want to be Kansas City right now playing those teams going through that stretch.
And the reason is because they're playing in division most of the games.
Yeah, they're playing each other. So
Yes.
they're gonna if you win your division, you're gonna have to beat your own teams for
Right.
sure.
And that's why it's scary because they could knock each other out of even the playoffs.
Yeah.
Not even a wild card situation.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking at AFC North, Baltimore's 8-3, leading division. It's another close race. Cincinnati is 1 game back at 7-4. Both teams are on a 2-game winning streak. So
Yeah, no, it really is. Cincinnati is still fighting in there. They've had some bad losses, but as a Bengals fan, you can't be any happier right now. And as a Baltimore fan, you're going, hey, this is where I thought we'd be at. I thought we'd win a few more, but when you lose all the running backs they've lost, if you should be thrilled that this is where you're sitting at. The team that's struggling right now in this division, Brad, and I know we've talked about it a little bit, and the turmoil that goes around the Cleveland Browns with the OBJ situation, and then with Baker Mayfield, and what are you going to do with him? And they win. One week they look great, the next week they go out and lay a goose egg. They're not making the playoffs.
yeah.
And I hate to say that because I want Cleveland to be good. And I thought that they'd be better. They lost Miles. They lost the Miles for the season, Garrett Miles for that, or Miles Garrett, whatever it is. And he was the leader of that defense. And it's hard to understand that this team could have had a better season than they're having. And they're 6-6. I'm not saying they're out of it, but I just don't think they're going to put it together enough to beat some of these other teams that have a better record than them.
Yeah, Baltimore controls their own destiny here. They got the Steelers, the Browns, back to play Ravens, Bengals, Rams, and back to the Steelers. They can win most all these games. I mean, they might struggle against Cincinnati because it's a close one.
Yep.
But they have, and I see both the teams making the playoffs. I see Baltimore winning the division, Cincinnati doing a wild card.
And I do too. I see both those teams making the division, and I think it's going to be one from that division. I think it'll be one from the West, whether it be the Chargers or the Broncos or Vegas, whoever comes out of there. And I think it's going to be 2 from the top. So you'll probably, whoever wins the Tennessee Indy division will only have 1 there, Brad.
Well, let's go to the South real quick.
Yep.
It's Tennessee's 8-4. Is sitting with a 2-game lead. Indianapolis is 6-6. I see Indianapolis winning this division.
I agree. I think Indy wins this division. I think Tennessee is not playing as well as they should be. Of course, when you lose your bell cow with Henry, if they do make the playoff, he comes back and he's not going to be fun to mess with if he comes back. I know they're saying that he'd be back for the playoffs, but they've got a little work to do there. They've got to step it up and they've got to get ready to go as a team if they want to make the playoffs.
And I would say Tennessee probably had one of the easier finishes to the season.
Right.
They got the Jags, the Steelers, the 49ers going to be a tough game, Dolphins, Texans. 49ers is the really only tough game they have, but I see them losing 2 of them.
Well, and that's the thing is that they've done the work up front.
Yes.
They're going to be so if that's the case, they're at 6. They got 6 losses, right?
Yep.
The Colts have 6 losses already. So that means the Colts have to win out to get it, which is the Texans, Jags, and then they got Patriots, Cardinal, Raiders, which they're going to lose one of those games. And so when you think about that, Tennessee just has to play, and they're in the playoff.
Yeah.
As the division winner. So, we say Indy's going to win this. That means that we think that the Dolphins, Texans, or Jags are going to beat them.
And I do think that. And I'm going to pick the Jags this week.
Yeah, well, it's great, Brad. Well, we're going to go to break right now. Want to thank everybody. Keep coming back. We'll see you right after the break when we get there.
Gibson Truck World's expert team of sales and service staff will show you why we have been the pioneer of used trucks since 1995. With our 1-year bumper-to-bumper warranty valid across the entire United States, our exclusive 15-day exchange policy, and our $1,000 best price guarantee, it's easy to see why we're the #1 used truck dealership in all of Florida. Please call, visit, or explore our website today to see for yourself why we are the king of trucks.
Looking for more reasons to celebrate? We have them here at Celebration Point. Enjoy some of the newest additions to our already celebratory lineup, like Dave & Buster's, Les Macarons, and Prime and Pearl. There's always a reason to celebrate. Join us anytime for any occasion. Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate.
Hi, Steve Spurrier here. You know, making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Last Gasp Fantasy Sports Podcast, coming to you live from the Gibson Truck World studio here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill Advisors, located at Celebration Point here in Gainesville, Florida. I want to say a special thanks to our sponsors, Archer Electric Services Company, Paisano Stone-Fired Pizza, Weeby Marketing, Gibson Truck World, and Viking Companies for their continued support of the show. Brad, you know, once again, here we are on a beautiful Sunday morning. The tables are filling up. You know, people are coming in, they're eating, even on, you know, a late holiday weekend with people out of town and going to visit family, and the kids are starting to go away to go back home from things like that here in Gainesville. And, you know, it's just good to see people in here eating, hanging out, having a great smile on their face, man.
During our commercial break, I was able to step outside and talk to some of the people eating, and they're talking about how great the food is, how great the environment is. They're coming and looking at the museum, looking at the helmets and the trophies and the rings and everything. You got to come down and check this place out.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and it's Steve Spurrier's restaurant here with a bunch of the groups there. It's their idea. It's a concept there for football. You know, Florida coaches are changing, but
Yeah.
you know, he's always been a staple of Florida. He's always won some national championships. He's been a great guy, played here, won a Heisman here. So, you know, now, of course, we got a new coach here, Billy Napier. I know, you know, we'll see him in here, I imagine, sooner than later coming in. So let's get back to it, Brad. And I wanted to bring up a question that, you know, my call on the Tyson Hill and the Jalen Hurts thing made me think of this question, and it's something that I want to bring up to fantasy owners and people that watch and listen to the show and talk about fantasy points, is that make sure you understand your league's points, Brad. And I wanted to ask you, do you like when you're rewarded for players getting 100 yards or 200 yards to get an extra 10 points? Both of my leagues don't reward good plays or good players of that. They calculate the yardage, the receptions, the touchdowns. You know, standard is a point per 25 yards or point whenever 5 per yard, 6 points for a touchdown, whether it's a thrown or catch. You know, there's no PPO on that league. There's no bonus for going 100 yards. There's no bonuses for going 200 or 300, 400-yard passing. Do you like that part of fantasy?
Me personally, I do like the bonuses because I do like rewarding someone when they hit that milestone, whether it's 100, 150, whatever it is. I have a league that's 100, and every 50 yards after that is another bonus.
Wow.
So, like a Jonathan Taylor that, rushed for 178 yards, he tore up the points that week, and no one can catch him. So there is a goods and bad to it. If someone has a great week like that, it's hard to catch up with that person.
Well, and that brings me to the question, negative points.
Yes.
Negative points never seem to weigh in as much as the positive points. Like, a guy rushed for 100 yards, guess what? He gets an extra 10 points.
Yeah.
He fumbles it 4 times, he only loses 8. Like, there's no way that should be the same. The negatives in fantasy should be equal to the bonuses, but they're not. Nobody ever wants to get negative points.
Yeah, I mean, like you're talking about it. Interception is negative 2 points in most leagues.
Yes.
That's 2 completions. I mean,
that's that's what it is. Like like we're saying, Tyson Hill had 4 interceptions and still was able to score 40 points in a league or 30 points. I had some people say he scored 43 in their league, and I'm like, if a dude threw 4 interceptions, there's no way he should have 43 points, regardless of what he's. I mean, yeah, he ran for 100 yards. Yeah, he scored 3 touchdowns or threw 2 and ran for 1. But that just.
Who gets hurt by the negatives more than any other player is the kickers.
Yeah, because if they miss long range ones, they're not making up the points.
No,
right.
So
and that's defenses as well. I mean, if you're giving up large yardage, it doesn't help for the fumble, the recovery, or the interception. The only thing that really helps those defenses is a touchdown.
Well, I've always hated the defensive scoring because you start at 10 points, they score 1 touchdown, you're down to 5. You've already lost half your points
for the whole week, right? And that's the thing is we go back to when you're drafting teams and players and things like that. Is that you need to pay attention to your kickers and your defenses. And people always wait to the end, and they'll go, I'll just worry about them at the end. They sometimes win you weeks.
Yes, they
win
do.
you leagues. I mean, early in the season, Dallas was getting 25 points from their defense every week.
Yeah.
So
this week, you look at this week, Dallas's defense and Dallas's kicker is scored them more points than the quarterback.
Yeah. Tell me about that, how that works out, Brad. That's wild. I want to do a little bit of recap from stuff we were talking about. I know we talked about where they were at in the divisions, talking about going into the next week's games and where they're going to go in the playoffs and things like that. But I'm going to talk about week 12, week 11. So we had 2 weeks that we missed. We talked about week 11, which we were here the show that Sunday before those shows started. Those games happened. We come into week 12. We were out for the holiday. Now we've got 2 weeks to catch up on. And I just want to kind of do a quick recap of some things that I noticed that were great, Brad. Chiefs beating the Cowboys, we talked about, and their defense stepping
I thought
up.
You said things that were great.
Oh, sorry. They were great for me, just, we also, that was in week 11, but in week 12, the Raiders beat the Cowboys as well. We talked about that. And we're going to say that Dallas beating New Orleans on Thursday night really got them back on track.
Yes.
And that's a positive thing for them. They're going to do well. And I just wanted to bring in those 2 surprise games for the week.
Yeah, because at first I thought you were rubbing it in.
No. I think that they're going to have those hiccups. We gave Tampa a break. We're going to give them a break. Green Bay got a break. I think same thing with Cardinals. Are going to get a couple more losses, little dings on their belt, but they're all going to pick it up. They've got veteran clubs, and I think they're going to do well there. The same thing we talked about week 12 and 11 surprises for me. Week 11 performance players were Carson Wentz beating the Bills.
Yes.
He has been phenomenal over the last 4 or 5 weeks this year, really putting up good numbers. I've started him in my league this week for one of my teams. And same with Kirk Cousins. We mentioned him a little bit earlier. He's 275 out of 406. He has a 67% passer completion rate. He's thrown for 3,000 yards and 23 touchdowns and 3 TDs. Yeah. And it's just it's crazy to see how well he's playing and doing that. And I want to throw some stats out for him. I know we talked a little bit about him. And of course, week 12, you can't go without saying Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
We talked about Leonard Fournette with the 4. Joe Mixon sets a record for himself at 165 yards carrying. In another Cincinnati win. He played lights out last week and was just stellar for the Cincinnati Bengals. And he has been a back that has blossomed over the last few weeks and for this year alone. So it's been great, man. Also, my biggest disappointments, though, Brad, there too, were the Bills losing to the Colts when they have an opportunity to really, try to take some legs over New England in that division that we talked about, and then Green Bay losing to the Viking. Even though Aaron Rodgers had 385 yards and 4 TDs in Week 11, they still lost.
Yeah.
And it's a division rivalry. I get it, but those are disappointments for me when you've got a chance to separate yourself in either both divisions and you give up games you could potentially win.
Yeah.
Same with Week 12, Brad. The Titans losing to New England. They were on a roll, And it just seems that New England's just going to find a way to win that division, Brad. And I don't know why, but that's just what it seems like, man.
New England's looking very good.
Yeah. And I don't
Crazy, isn't it?
I mean, Kenny Bourne is a top 15 receiver right now in the leagues. He's putting up points like crazy.
When we sat here in week 1 and said, guys, New England's going to win their division.
No, there's nobody that thought New England would win their division with a rookie quarterback. They got rid of Cam Newton. Yeah. They got rid of all of that, and he starts, and it's wild, Brad.
What a
it's
great
wild.
move to get rid of Cam Newton.
You all the kudos to New England and their fans and their base and everything like that, man. It's great to there, Brad. Let's move on to the injury reports, kind of talk about what's that, and then waiver wires, and then we'll go into pick'ems, man. This show's rolling right along, and it's just glad to be back in the studio talking, dude.
Oh, loving this. Loving it. Loving watching everybody come in,
say
hi and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, with the injury report, let's start with the Arizona Cardinals. The running back Chase Edmonds is on IR, remains on IR. DeAndre Hopkins has a hamstring, and Kyler Murray with an ankle are both questionable.
Yep.
Hopkins did not practice Friday. Murray was limited.
Yep.
Move on to Atlanta. Calvin Ridley, personal, remains out. Baltimore, Miles Brooken has a finger, is doubtful. And then Devin
Duvernay. Yeah, Duvernay, for sure, yeah. And he's good to go.
Practice Friday, he should be good to go. Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, man, that's got to be tough, man.
Yep, put on out for the season. He's going to miss the rest of the season.
MCM's out again, and he was the number 1 overall pick.
2 years in a row.
And it's got to be brutal.
2 years in a row. In both years, he's gone out with an injury.
This brings up Chuba Hubbard. If he's probably been released by everybody, so he's probably back on the market. Go pick him up as a waiver wire. He's their backup guy.
Sam Darnold, again, he's back on IR. He's going to miss at least a month, so he's out for the rest of the fantasy.
And it's wild because some of these teams right in the middle of the season, and we're getting in the later half of the season, they look like they were making a move up, Carolina Panthers, and then it just crashed on them. So let's hope that they can get back healthy.
Chicago Bears wide receiver Marquise Goodman, foot and ribs, and Damian Williams are out.
Yep.
Wide receiver Allen Robinson, hamstring. Justin Fields, ribs are doubtful. Cole Kmet is the tight end. Should be okay. He practiced Friday.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Justin Fields was out. Is it Andy Dalton's his backup? I think is that who that is there?
Yes.
And he's done serviceable, and it's good that you want to get Fields some work, but they want to win too.
Yes, they do.
And so it was good to see them get a win on Thanksgiving. You see how much it meant to them to come down, and that drive that they did that last drive on Thanksgiving Day, Brad. We didn't get to talk about it last week. 18 plays, 10 minutes,
Took the time.
and just sucked the life out of Detroit that day. And it's just Detroit can't have a worse. I mean, you can lose a bunch of games, Brad, but then the way that they're losing these last few, where they tie the Steelers and then they give up a late touchdown to Cincinnati or Cleveland, and then they get beat by on a last field goal by them. It's just
Yeah, because I was watching that game. I'm sitting here, Detroit's going to win. Detroit's going to win. Nope. Keep on going. Down to Cincinnati, wide receiver Auden Tate has a thigh, but he did not practice a week and looks like he's going to be doubtful.
Yep.
The Cowboys, Blake Jarwin, the tight end, he remains on IR, so he's not playing.
Yep.
Denver Broncos, Melvin Gordon, shoulder hip, isn't expected to play. Teddy Bridgewater practiced all week, so he should be okay to play as quarterback.
Yep.
Detroit Lions, Swift, he's going to miss this week. That's a big one for. I mean, they're not doing well this season, but the loser, their running back's going to really hurt.
Well, and that's the thing. They're still put up production from the running game.
Yes.
The receiving game hasn't been well, and nothing with the QB, which I thought Goff would do a little better there. But Swift and Jamal Williams, that's a guy that's a start this week. Must start Jamal Williams out of there. So they've still put up great numbers for fantasy stats wise. They just can't get a win for the team.
Yeah. Over at Houston, another team that needs a lot, but Armadillo.
Yeah, you can call him Armadillo. Danny Amendola's there.
Yeah, he's out for the week. Chris Conley's illness, wide receiver Brandon Cook's illness, and David Johnson illness are all questionable.
Yeah, and we haven't talked much about Houston on the show.
Why is it? Why should
I know, but Tyrod Taylor, he's come back. They've played a little better.
Yeah,
and he's definitely they're a better team with him versus Miles Davis up there and doing that. So got to give him a little credit.
So if you're Houston or if you're Detroit, we're getting down to the last 5-6 games of the season. Do you play for the first pick now?
I don't know who the first pick is in this draft. Like normally there's some big quarterbacks that are just like, hey, this is like last year. It was Fields and Trevor Lawrence, and those are the top two guys, and this is who it was.
I'm trying to think who it was because they're talking about this linebacker who's been playing very well, and it slips my mind. His name slips my mind right now.
Yeah.
But if in a year like this where a linebacker might be the first pick of the draft, are you playing for that?
You don't care about that. No, you're trading. You're trading your picks. You're trading your things. You're doing some things that'll be getting rid of them. And C.J. Stroud's out there, but I just don't think that he's going to be the number one pick in the draft. I think it's going to be some defensive linemen. The defensive lineman from Georgia would be the monster. He's a man among boys. Even in that league, he's going to be a top defensive stopping machine in the tackle position for years to come. So he's going to be top 5. He might even go number 1 for a team like this who need to get their defenses and things in order. But nobody right now is playing like the Jags did last year to get Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. What? I know he got hurt yesterday, but what year's McKissick in or for the Alabama wide receiver?
Oh, Matchy?
Matchy, yeah.
Yeah. No, he can come out this year. I think he's a junior this year coming out, so he's going to be available. But I don't think you waste a pick like that early in the game. He's going to be good, but there's a lot of it's going to be an interesting league. It's going to be an interesting draft this year coming out and seeing what's going on. So I'm super intrigued, and of course those will come out a little bit later.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see what's going on there, man.
Okay, let's keep on moving on.
Yep.
Over in Indianapolis, Jack Doyle's knee, he practiced Friday, so he's questionable, but it looks like he'll be back to play. The Jaguars, the tight end Dan Arnold went on IR, so he's gone. And then their running back James Robinson was limited Friday, but deemed questionable.
Yep.
He'll probably play. He's not their starter.
Brad, we're going to talk about real quick, just hop in here. We want to say a special thanks to our sponsors, Archer Electric Service Company. They're bringing you over 30 years of leadership and experience in both commercial and residential electric needs to Gainesville and surrounding communities. Also, Paisano's Stone-Fired Pizza. Whether you're looking for a quick lunch or dinner destination to meet up with friends and family, go check them out, either at your place or ours. Celebrate life's most memorable moments with delicious dishes, whether in our dining or yours. Also, come check us out at lastgasfantasy.com. Also, click the like button on Facebook and the follow button on YouTube right now. Send in your questions. We got about 15 minutes left in the show, and we appreciate all the support and asking the questions and things like that, man. It's been a really good week, and glad to get back in the studio, Brad.
I'm going to just cover a couple more injuries.
Yeah.
One of the big ones is Deebo Samuel in San Francisco. He is out, so you got to look around for that.
Yep.
He actually played running back last week because San Francisco was hurting so bad.
Yep. Dalvin Cook's another big name out.
Yep.
Alvin Kamara's out. He didn't play Thursday, of course, but those two big names are out for running backs. Make sure you're paying attention on there.
And then over the Washington football team, running back J.D. McKissick's out with concussion. Gibson is their starting running back. Washington has a heavy run game, so that opens the door for Patterson.
Yep. And also another name to notice who's been pretty good on the stat line, Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones will be out this week. They went out and picked up Jake Fromm, old Georgia boy, coming in there to play. I know that Corey wouldn't be too happy about that. He sent me one of the emojis with the guy's hands in the air, just going, what's going on here? So, you think about that. But those are the big names. Antonio Brown's out, we talked about there. And so, as we move on there, Brad, that's great. Now let's go to this week's pick'ems and wrap up, see who we're going to like this week. The first game was already easy to tell. We already know who won that.
I picked Dallas.
Did you pick Dallas?
Yeah, I picked Dallas.
I think you should be asking me. I'm the winner last week. I went 10-5 in my league.
Wow, that's great.
I won my pick'ems week, paid for my year. So congratulations. I'm giving myself on a pat on the back there. My mom and dad would be proud of me for being able to pick 1 week out of 16 or 17 weeks it is. So, I've did what you asked. I've lived up to my expectations now, so can't be mad about that. Brad, Tampa, Atlanta.
Easy.
I think we both know. In this week's game, I'm going to start off with a preface is, I think we have 36 teams that pick. There might have been 3 games that people pick differently. It is a straight down the road who they like, and it seemed like a pretty easy pick 'em this week. Everybody picked Dallas. I think there was 3 teams that picked New Orleans. Everybody picked Tampa. They're up. They're 11.5 favorites at Atlanta.
Everybody went Arizona.
I don't know if they'll cover that.
No.
I don't like that 11.5, but I think Tampa wins that one.
Yeah.
I think everybody picked Arizona to beat Chicago. The only thing is it's at Chicago, and they coming off a big win last week, and they get a couple extra days rest. So I think Arizona wins that, but I think Chicago keeps it close.
Well, this is a good game.
Yep. This was one of the games that was the coin flip, was
Right.
the Chargers at Cincinnati. I went with the home team. You got to go with Cincinnati in my mind.
I'm going with Cincinnati, yeah.
You've got to go there. Cincinnati
streak.
is on the hot streak. LA is kind of hit or miss. They don't know what they're going to do. They don't know how they're doing. But I mean, Austin Eckler's still one of the top 5 running back fantasy points wise. You know, Justin Herbert's top 5 fantasy quarterback fantasy wise. So, you know, when you think about these players, even though teams aren't doing exponentially good, they're still getting great fantasy points, and that's what we care about.
Yeah, you got Burrows and Mixon on the other side.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. So I like Cincinnati.
Yep, I do.
We got Minnesota at Detroit. Brad, who do you like there?
Everyone's Minnesota there.
Everybody's taking Minnesota there, and that game is at 7.5. I don't know why that line is that way. I know that Detroit's been playing teams very well, and they're keeping it close, and they're looking for a win. But I think Minnesota wins this game handily this week, and that would be how I would take a lot.
Cousins would be a good play.
Yeah.
My only issue with this is if they get up too big and then they just start running the game, then
Yeah.
Cousins kind of falls
Well, that's
off.
what happened in that Florida State game, Brad. I took Florida in the points, and we gave up 2 garbage TDs in the last 5 minutes and killed me. So that's a potential right there. Indianapolis at Houston.
Indianapolis.
Got to like Indianapolis going in there. 8.5-point favorites. They're fighting for the division. They're fighting in that AFC. So they need this win, and they're coming off that tough game against Tampa. So I think Indy wins that as well. You got the Giants at Miami. This is the other coin flip game.
Because this is without Daniel Jones, right?
Yes, they don't have Daniel Jones in this game.
So I'm going Miami.
And I went Miami as well, just because of that. Like, you can't expect that team to continue to play at some of the things that they were doing by bringing in a new QB on there. And whether or not whoever it is, and who I don't know off the top of my head who's starting for them, but Miami with Tua and Jalen Waddle. And Waddle's been a great pickup.
Yes.
He's been a monster pickup for anybody that got him in the waiver wire in week 3 or 4? Was that what it was?
I actually drafted him, but yes.
Well, you had foresight, like you knew you're a savant, I guess, Brad. So, it's great to see that, with him going in there, and he has absolutely been tearing it up. And if you have him, you better be playing him, because he is just dominating them for there, and they love him there. So congratulations to that. I think Miami gets this win, just like you, Brad, and that line's interesting. We got Philadelphia going into the New York Jets, and this is the problem with all these favorites going into places. This is where it's going to get interesting. Is how does Philly come into the Jets and win that game? With Jalen Hurts being hurt.
Well, Jalen Hurts is hurt, and doesn't the Jets have their quarterback back now?
Yeah, they're starting. Not Mike White, the other guy.
They're starting Flacco?
They're Wilson. They're starting Wilson, I thought, right?
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson. Wilson's the guy that's starting there. Yeah.
Yeah, because they did Flacco last week.
Yep. And then he was pulled and benched immediately.
Right, and Wilson's back. So I'm gonna go for the Jets.
I pick Philadelphia, my pick 'em, but I'm rethinking that as I sit here and talk about how Philadelphia is hurt, because I pick my picks it's based off your time entry. And so you have to pick your picks early in the week. So if there's a tie in score, it's whoever entered the score first.
Gotcha.
And so you want to do it on a Monday. You don't want to reset your picks, because now you find out he's hurt later on in the week, and you're going, well, great. But anyway, I'm going to stay with Philly and see what happens. Of course, we all think the Rams are going to beat Jacksonville.
I'm picking Jacksonville. This is the one that I'm.
Really?
I said the Rams have got to lose a couple, and I think this is one they're going to lose.
Brad, I will let you talk for 10 minutes next week without me saying a word if Jacksonville beats the Rams, because there's no way, with all the coaching turmoil that's been around in college football and Urban Meyer's distractions.
What did Urban say? I ain't going anywhere.
Well, he didn't say that. He just said that I'm committed to the cons. But so anyway, Jacksonville does not beat the Rams, and I don't even think Jacksonville might get to 20. No, they're not. They're going to get 10. They might even get 13. But anyway, it's the Rams all day there. The next game, Washington at Las Vegas. This is the other coin flip. There's about 4 here. This was one of them that, in my mind, was that coin flip.
This is going to be a great game, but I am going for Vegas because I need Vegas to win.
I agree with you. And they're 6-5. They need to. They're still in the hunt for that wild card pot in the AFC. They come off a great win against Dallas. They come out now, and Washington football team won me my week last week, beating Seattle. So I would love for them to lose. Just to help you out, Brad. Just as I'm a good friend, I think that your division needs it. My best friend Kenny needs him to lose it. So, Kenny, that's for you, buddy. We're taking Las Vegas on this one. San Francisco at Seattle.
I don't understand how these points are so low.
Yeah. San Francisco looks like the better team.
Yeah.
They should be the better team.
Seattle.
They come off of last week's win that was really good. I don't know where that's at, but, hey, I'm taking San Fran all day over Seattle.
That's the one that if you've got money, go bet it.
Yep. Baltimore at Pittsburgh. Baltimore is only -3.5. Once again, you get 3 for being at home. So I think they just think that's just a tough game in general. Najee Harris, I think, is hitting that freshman slump where he was strong in the first half of the season, and this grueling time is getting a little to him. He's still putting up some points here and there, but he's not as strong as he was. And so I think they being Pittsburgh, need him to be better if they're going to win any games moving
This
forward.
is a Baltimore guarantee.
This is Baltimore all day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Baltimore should have this. If they have a hiccup here, that opens that division up even more, man. That'd be huge for Cincinnati.
I think they got the points mixed up. Denver, Kansas City, 9.5 points.
Yeah. They think Kansas City is going to walk the dog with this one. And I mean, anyway, I think Kansas City wins. I think Denver makes it harder. I think Teddy Bridgewater has been
Denver's
one of the
playing well.
underdog stories of the year. That Denver defense has played well, and so it's really interesting to see that that's what they think this is. But I truly believe that Kansas City's defense has come around and turned the corner. So that's why this game is like this. I don't think that they're going to think Denver's going to score on Kansas City and Kansas City is going to light them up. So that's why they have it there, Brad.
I've got to go Kansas City on this, but I say 3.
Yeah, I agree. And the last game, best game of the week that I think is going to be the best game of the week, I think it's New England at Buffalo. It's going to be cold. It's going to be fun. 2 inner rivals. They're both in the division hunt. They're both trying to win that division. It's going to be a high-scoring game.
I got to give a home team advantage here.
Got to go Buffalo?
Yeah.
I chose Buffalo over New England just because I don't want to see New England win a division. Not because they're not good and they're on a 6 or 7 game win streak and they're absolutely on a tear right now. I mean, and it's weird that defense, 25-0 last week?
Yeah.
Didn't give up a single point, and I couldn't name a single starter on that defense right now. That's what tells you about that team. They are such a team-oriented, spirited team. It's wild, but I think Buffalo has to win this statement game, and they have to do it here.
Yeah, this is a coin toss to me. That's why I got to go home team.
And right there below that, Brad, as we're looking at it, want to make sure we remind everybody, you've got Cleveland on a bye, Green Bay on a bye, Tennessee on a bye, and Carolina on a bye. I think this comes at a great time for Green Bay and Tennessee to get a little healthier. Tennessee just needs it to regroup their batteries. They're going to win their division. We talked about it. You think Indy. I think Indy, but I think they don't have to do much to win it. So congrats to them. You know, Brad, so there's the picks of the week, man. It's great to see it coming through. The one thing, with a few minutes left in the show, I like ending on a positive note and talking about a positive thing. Normally we talk about charities and events and things like that, but what I'm going to talk about this week is the Bills fan base. We've talked about New England and the Bills on that game, but the Bills fan base has donated in increments of $27 over $100,000 to trade Devarius White's hometown food bank. He tore his ACL, and as soon as that happened, they didn't go to the Bills area. They didn't go to Buffalo. They went back to his hometown in Louisiana and have raised over $108,000 since Wednesday, or by Wednesday. And so it just shows you the camaraderie and the willingness for people to help people in need. And, he couldn't be more grateful for what they're doing for his hometown in Louisiana. So I just want to talk about that. And congrats to the Bills Mafia for all the fun that they have and the partying they do. They still have that hometown feel and spirit to give back to the community. Brad, and I mean, and just like that, it's a blink of an eye. The show's almost over. We're at a minute away. You got any follow-up things here at the end? You want to say anything to anybody or anything like that? You looking forward to anything?
Well, I just want to say thank you to everyone who does watch the show, who does listen and ask the questions. We didn't get many questions today during the show, but we've been getting questions during the week and answering them on Facebook and on YouTube and stuff. Thank you for participating with us. Thank you for supporting the show for the last 13 weeks, and I really have enjoyed this.
Yeah, no, man. And we're going to go through the end of the year, end of the season. Maybe a couple games of the playoff, depending on how we're getting there. But we definitely want to say thank you for everybody listening and watching. It's really fun. It's been a great time. We love recapping the fantasy numbers and talking about it. I mean, it's one of those things that when you think about coaching carousels, you think about different things that are happening, you think about moving. This is always churning. People are getting hurt. The scores are changing. Their numbers are going up. They're going down. They're, the different winnings in the playoffs, different divisions, different quarterbacks. So we could talk for days every week, and we get to cram it into an hour period here and share it with you guys. And so we can't thank you enough. We can't thank all of our sponsors enough and our family for doing it. And, let the holiday season begin, and we hope you have a great one, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.